Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell if you love to watch more cheating stories. I've been married to my husband for 14 years and I think he might have feelings for another woman. TLDR, husband's close friendship with coworker worries me, unsure if he has feelings for her or they are just friends. Sorry for the length, I guess I'm as much looking for guidance as I'm trying to get all this out there. I've been dealing with this alone for about 2 years now. So, my husband has this coworker who he considers a friend. I used to consider her a friend too. Not super close friends, but get together with a group of people, house sit for each other, etc. Then she starts texting my husband a lot outside of work. I didn't know about this until much after it first started. I was startled to find they were texting a lot. Being totally fair, it was mostly exchanging memes, so though it's not something my husband typically does with anyone, relatively innocent, right? The back and forth became more frequent, to the point I became irritated at the constant interruptions to my time with my husband. They work together all day, so why do they have to text each other a bunch too? It slowed down a bit, but I later found out that he seemed to save it for when I was napping or otherwise occupied. I didn't realize until after the fact that our intimacy was dwindling away to nothing during the time they started texting in earnest. He had mentioned to me multiple times, unprompted, that sex just didn't do much for him. He assured me he finds me beautiful, he just doesn't have much urge to do it. I told him there's nothing wrong with having times when you're just not feeling it, but that I'm always here if he does feel like it. The pandemic hit and that was occupying everyone's minds for a while. I was still annoyed at times at their texting since they chatted through work chats and video calls during the workday. We'd be out at a store and see something funny and my husband would take a picture of it to send it to her immediately. It hurt to see him so excited to send stuff to her. I don't know if it's just irrational jealousy, but my normally introverted husband who hates to text never acted that way toward anyone else that I ever had seen. One day she starts crying to him over video chat, reportedly about how hard it was to work from home separated from everyone else. He comes to me and says, "Coworker was crying, I feel like I need to go over to her house and give her a hug." I told him, "No, I don't want you to." We both went silent. I was already uncomfortable with how close they seemed, but for my husband who is not known to be a hugger to want to hug another woman, to comfort her while she's crying made me really uncomfortable. My husband seemed to settle on us both going over to her house just to hang out, and that seemed to be a good outcome to me, support a friend in a platonic way, with me involved and no touching. It put me at ease a little. A few months later, my husband's scrolling through Facebook and says out loud, "Oh, coworkers doing leg exercises." It was such a bizarre comment to come out of his mouth, down to the phrasing. We were months into not doing anything physical with each other, so not the most reassuring thing to hear him say. I didn't say anything, just left him to his scrolling. Sometime after that she starts crying to him again about a work project, and he decides the best way to fix this would be to go over to her house, so her could physically point at her screen like he would if they were in the office. I went back and forth between not being worried, to being worried for so long that I felt in a bit of a fog. I kinda just said okay when he told me where he was going. Might seem foolish, but I felt bad for having these doubts about my husband. He's never given me reason to worry until this situation with her, so part of me felt like I must have been unreasonable to worry. His visits to her house happen a few more times, not often, maybe a month or so apart. One of the last ones was not work-related, but she wanted help setting up her smart TV. Cool, so work-related stuff is one thing, but surely for something like this, I can come along, right? I asked him if I could come and he nearly shouts, "No." At me. No further explanation, and he leaves. When he comes back, he says sorry, but she's not felt very adult lately, so she probably won't want any additional people there. All this over a smart TV? As if I'd judge her for something like that. I didn't buy it, so I told him, I'm not comfortable with him going over there alone. I explained to him that to anyone on the outside looking in, this whole thing would seem suspect. She's the only one of his coworkers who needed him to come to her house to help her with work. Then when I asked to come along to a non-work related one, you don't ask her if it's okay if I come too, you just say no and leave. He seemed really understanding and promised he'd not go over to her house alone again. He said there was definitely nothing going on between them and that they weren't each other's types. I had to agree on that point. I'd never expect him to go after a woman like her. The next day after this conversation it rains and apparently she didn't bother making sure she owned a ladder that could reach her gutters, so it was clogged and she was worried about it flooding. So of course, husband goes to the rescue. Alone. This was the last time this happened. Things did seem better after that, but I had some insecurities pop up. He didn't treat her much different, still texting, sometimes ignoring my texts at the same time he'd answer hers. I discussed my concerns with him a few times, but eventually he stopped being understanding and got angry. He revealed that the first time I brought up my worries, he could barely function for a week and that I could literally kill him with the heartache my lack of trust caused. I felt so guilty. I tried my best to sort myself and be a better wife. Her birthday comes along, and no surprise he remembers it. We go hang out with her, and if he doesn't just beam at her with this smile that I don't think I've seen him direct at me for a long time. I was sad, feeling like the third wheel as they joked, but thought at least she should be content that we spent so much time with her. Nope. Days later, he doesn't respond to some work chat right away and she goes off on him, saying to him, "I won't bother sending you funny stuff anymore, and I feel neglected," and ending with, "I miss you." I only knew about this because I asked when I could tell something was up. He tells me how she blew up at him. At this point I feel a bit vindicated. This woman is way too clingy, always fishing for compliments and such, but this proves it. I ask him if he thinks she has feelings for him and he says he thinks she does. I said that it feels weird for her to expect him to act like her boyfriend and respond to everything she says promptly and constantly expecting validation. And at the time he agreed it was weird. I thought things would be different after that. He distanced himself slightly, but he still chats her up during the workday, gives her advice when she vents to him, worries a ton when she gets sick, etc. They will be going back to work in the office full-time soon. I told myself this weird behavior from her had to be due to pandemic stress and things would be back to normal soon. Well, my husband left his old phone in my home office. I thought it was a sweet gesture, a sign of openness. To soothe my anxiety, I went through their old texts to confirm, yes, this wasn't that bad before the pandemic. Not quite, it seems. He wasn't just sending her memes, but checking in on her, asking her if she was feeling alright. He had to cajole her to come into work even though it's her responsibility to show up for her assigned hours at her salaried job. It all reads so sweet and loving. One time she says, "I don't know what's wrong with me." And his reply is, "Absolutely nothing." I stopped reading there. I couldn't take it anymore. I thought, oh, that's why she expects you to act like her boyfriend. Because you kind of were. I've talked to my husband about her so many times at this point. The last time he just kind of sighed and said he didn't know what else to tell me, that he loves me and don't worry about doubting him again because at this point he's used to it. My heart feels so broken. Either they are platonic friends and I'm a bad wife for thinking anything else, or bare minimum, he's having an emotional affair. For those who got through this very long post, is this just normal friend stuff? Part of me would be relieved to be crazy. I think I can deal with that. What I will struggle to live with is if he does really care about her. I've never seen him treat anyone else this way. The closest comparison I can make is to the way he treats me. Here are some of the best comments from our community. This is at minimum an emotional affair but most likely a full-blown physical affair based on his attempts to be alone with her and his distancing himself from you emotionally, physically and from an intimacy perspective. Essentially, he doesn't want to cheat on her with you. He is likely communicating with her in a secondary method like Snapchat or Kik or Telegram, or he's deleting messages. No one goes over to a coworker's to point at the screen. That's what Zoom screen sharing is for, and your mouse. And going to comfort her when she cries. Please. Rolling eyes face. This is a classic coworker affair. And he's fully in the fog. It certainly looks like he is dating her. I guess that makes you the side piece. I have to honest, if my spouse was acting like him, the boyfriend-like behavior would end or we'd be divorced. I would leave them to each other. I've seen this enough times in real life. You cannot win unless you get into a position where you get to choose whom to allow to clean your gutters. Your husband can be one of those people, if you choose, since that is what he likes. Sounds like you should just let them have each other and remove yourself from the equation. It seems like he disrespected you and your relationship a lot, especially since you told him how it all made you feel. You can find better. This is beyond emotional. She is trying to steal him completely. That's why she is in need of constant rescue, and her hero, aka your husband, is always too willing to rush over there and save her. Sorry, but they have had sex, a lot. No guy works this hard without getting something in return. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell.